Hey guys, what is up? Sorry about that. Here's my second sort of episode of champions that I think should be nerfed and buffed. It is now patch 8.1 currently. So we have to remember that. So a lot of these changes, Aurelion Soul got a lot better. So I still would like to see this change to Aurelion Soul, but he's still pretty busted right now when you're good at him. So maybe it's a bit too early to have that buff. But I really like this. Maybe you could decrease like the damage numbers or just decrease something about Aurelion Soul, and then just give him this because I just really like this as a buff. I didn't finish saying what Azir's buff should be. I think that, I for some reason the video cut a bit short. I'm sorry about that. I just think take away 2 MR. It's not like the biggest of nerfs, but it just means that sometimes he can get poked down a little bit harder. You land a comet, your abilities plus comet or plus airy or plus scorch. It just means that it will do like just instead of maybe doing 18 damage on the scorch, it'll do 19. And not a huge difference, but sometimes 1 health or 1 health here and there makes a huge difference. When you start getting magic pen, so you get like 2 magic pen items, you should be dealing, like, he'll have like a bit higher MR at that point. And so if you take away 2, instead of, if with your 2 magic pen items, you might be dealing true damage instead of having almost true damage plus the 2% that they get from 2 MR because of how like the MR scales. Like if you have 2 MR, that's essentially 2% magic percent resist that you take away from damage. And then when you start getting up to like 100, it's only like I forget the number. I think it's 50 or something. It's something like that. Some clean number. Anyways, let's move on to our next champion. So we have Bard. Now I know Bard got a little bit of a buff in I think 7.24B. I think and that buff was like his meeps do like 10 more damage or something. I still like the buff that I have included here. So Caretaker Shrine, which is his W. So the heal change from, so it used to be 30, 60, 90, 120, 150 at 30 AP, and then it scales up to 70, 110, 150, 190, 230, 60 AP. To instead have the same thing except for +1 for every chime collected, and then going up to +2 for every chime collected. And so in a game, usually you'll have maybe 40 or so chimes, or sorry, I forgot the numbers, but it was something like 40 chimes or something around 20 minutes. I could be very wrong there, but let's just imagine you get 40 chimes at 20 minutes. So that means you're for a fully scaled up Caretaker Shrine, because it takes like 10 seconds or something for it to scale up. It will give an additional 80 health, which I think is very fair. Because, and you know what, we can even have this be like +3. The only thing, so if you're building like AP, obviously this is a huge nerf. The only thing, oh wait, no, this is why I had it. Right, I forgot the second part. So the reason why I think that this is a buff rather than nerf, even though if you have a bit more AP, this is clearly a nerf. Bard is a champion who doesn't really build any AP. Even when Ardent Censor was like super meta, you didn't really see Bard build. Well, you didn't even see Bard really, but you didn't see him building Ardent Censor either. He doesn't really build AP unless you're like doing some weird cheeky like AP build. But that can be said for like a lot of champions. So you're really not having like too much AP except for like maybe maximum 40 AP, and so this is still like a buff above that. You really have to have 100 AP for for this to be considered a nerf. I also think so. Buff. So during the duration of the bonus move speed that Bard receives after collecting a chime. So when Bard collects a chime, he gets bonus movement speed, and if he collects, I think up to 3, if you can collect like 5 in a row without losing that movement speed, you move like super fast. And so while you're getting that bonus movement speed, the heal is increased by a bonus 100% for every chime that you collect. So what does this mean? This means that if you lay down 3 caretaker shrines and then run away like you normally do as a bard, and leave your AD carry in the bot lane to fend for themselves, it means that these heals will actually be super good. They'll actually be super strong, probably be able to like fully heal an AD carry, which is really important because as bard, you like they're always like a bad bard player will just like leave their AD carry and then they'll just die under turret or something, and then they'll just rage. And it's kind of like the whole like Nunu smite support where the Nunu just goes counter jungling the whole time and then gets reported because the AD carry is like having such a terrible time. It's the same thing with bard, except that it's more acceptable on bard because he is a roaming champion. But because of that, the AD carry is put in the exact same position, which really sucks. Obviously, these numbers can be changed, so maybe like 50%, gives a bonus of 50%. I think that's actually probably more fair because then 500% of, like, if you only have 1 level in it. Oh, you have to remember that you max the heal last. So you're not even getting like these full effects. So you're usually just getting like 70 health. So if you increase that by 100%, then it becomes 140. And then if you collect another chime, and you have to remember that these windows are really small. So the bard actually has to be and the AD carry has to be coordinated with the bard on like how big the movement speed buff bard is getting. So if bard is only at 2, which is pretty normal for bard to have only 2 stacks of it, then you're looking at a 200% increase from 70. So that's about 210 health at level 2 usually, which is actually really huge now that I think about it. But actually, it does also mean that you have to leave your AD carry alone. So maybe it's fair. Maybe we can say like, I hate actually how Riot uses clean numbers like most of the time, because instead they would just nerf it from like 100% to like 50%, and it's like you don't need to go that far. I think maybe, and if you want to still be clean, you can say 75%, which is maybe more fair. I like clean, or I don't necessarily like clean numbers. Obviously they're easier to remember, but if somebody says like 70%, or like, obviously you don't need to go like 68%, that there's really no point. You can have a rounded like 70 or 60, but you don't need to make it 50 or 100 or something like that. I'd like to see at least 70%. Okay, that's all I have to say about bard. Moving on to Blitzcrank. So his passive on his ultimate is when his ultimate is on cooldown, or sorry, when it's not on cooldown. Every like through 2.5 seconds, I think, it brings down like a little static like proc that deals like 100 damage to any random minion nearby, or enemy unit. It could be a champion. It could be even a monster. Excuse me. So I think that this is a very dumb passive. It's realistically never used except to like slowly push a minion wave, and like that's not even in your own control really. So personally, I really don't like this passive. I think it's really outdated. And so I just want to remove it completely. But I want to give him a little bit of love. And so I didn't think he needed love like on anything else. I think maybe his passive could be reworked, but that's something, that I still like his passive a bit. So I say when the static field is on cooldown, if you stand in place for 7.5 seconds without moving, reduce static field, which is the name of his ultimate, cooldown by 10 seconds. Probably like 10 additional seconds. So technically, at level like 6, I think it's like it's a pretty high cooldown. I think it's about, let's just pretend it's 60. So if you stand in one spot for 7.5 seconds, then it'll be, at the point it's at 52.5 on its cooldown if you just used it. And then it goes down to 42.5 and you stand in place for now. So let's say you stand in place for 15 seconds. So 15, you're standing in place for 15 seconds and you reduce the cooldown by 20 seconds. So you're looking at like a 35 second. Like you stand in place for 15 seconds and boom, it's now at 25 seconds. Let's say that's level 6. Now you have to remember that at level, let's say 11 or level like even 16. So at level 16, the cooldown is pretty low. I think it's about 20 maybe. Or actually, let's look. A Blitzcrank ability. Sorry, I'm not really prepared for this. Okay. Let's just go here. Actually, do they even state it here? I don't know. I forget if they state cooldowns. We'll just hope. We'll just hope my potato loads up. They don't. How are these guys? They're so useless. Okay, well, this will at least have it. Right. So it goes down to 20 seconds. So essentially, if you use your ultimate and then stand in place for 7.5 seconds, let's say in a brush, for example, then it's practically off cooldown again, right? And this like synergizes with like with your hook. Like Blitzcrank is a champion that does like stand in a bush for like quite a bit and can stand in one place. So I think that this is fair. I think it's a unique thing. I mean, I just really don't want to see his current passive on his ultimate, and I think this would be an interesting replacement. Okay, so Brand, he actually got that buff from his max percent damage going from 2% to 4%. I don't disagree with that. I think it's a nice buff. It makes him do things better than I mean, okay, so with the removal of Deathfire Touch, Brand was lacking some damage, so this 2% is really nice to get. I think it's fine. Yeah. So Braum. So I am a Braum player myself, so this is a bit biased. So reduce stand behind me, which is his W, where he jumps to an ally and gives them armor and magic resist from 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 to 12, 11.5, 11, 10.5, and 10. Usually, you max this last. So Braum is a champion where generally you max your Q first, which is like the slow that he throws out. You max that first because it does more damage and the cooldown goes slower. The only problem is I've come to realize that actually just maxing stand behind me and unbreakable is actually just better because like you're Braum, you're not really meant to like poke out with that damage, and since poke doesn't really work right now anyways, like you're actually not really doing anything except reducing the Q's cooldown, and you get so much from buffing these stand behind me and unbreakable. So I want to see the cooldown reduced at least at level like 1. Braum isn't a champion who actually necessarily buys like cooldown right off the bat. He doesn't build like, you have to remember, he builds like Face of the Mountain, which gives 10%. And then he builds like Locket second. And then he usually builds Mobility Boots. And if he doesn't build Mobility Boots, he's generally not building Lucidity. He's generally building maybe Ninja Tabby or Merc Treads because he is tanking so much. Or maybe Swifties in some weird world. But he's generally not getting like 20% CDR for like a long time. So I think that he needs help with his cooldowns because he's really never hitting that 20% unless like after anywhere close, unless he gets like Frozen Heart, which would be like his 3rd item, and then our 4th item if you include boots. So I just kind of like to see the cooldown on his stand behind me go down. And then I want to make the jump on his stand behind me a little bit bigger, just because I love when you give champions the ability to outplay. I think that's really healthy for the game. And I think giving him a little bit more range actually is pretty healthy, and it makes him just jump a little bit farther, so that he can engage a little bit better or help his team just a little bit better. I don't think it's too much to ask for. I also think that his his Unbreakable, should be increased by 5% every single rank. I know Braum is like pretty busted right now, but he's not always busted. So I made this before Braum and Tom Kench became meta. I think that they will come out of meta. I think that Braum with these buffs will be a very strong support for a very long time. And I think that's okay. I genuinely think that's okay because like there are so many champions that there are a few champions who stay in the meta for a very long time and who always come back into meta. And then like Lulu and Janna, they're always just solid champions to play as a support. And I know too many people aren't complaining about those too much, and when you see other champions can become meta, you're like, this is too strong. But you have to remember that some champions, their kits are just meant to like actually be meta. Like it's why you see Talia like whenever she constantly has to kept getting nerfed because her kit is just so good. So Braum, I think his kit is just so good, and I think but I don't think if we switch out of meta to one that's like not overheal with Targons and all that, I think Braum will fall out of popularity, and I think these are nice buffs to give to him once that happens. And I also think that the width of his Unbreakable is kind of an interesting buff. It's not the best of buffs. It's actually not too important, but it's kind of like, Yasuo's wind wall gets bigger with every buff, and and those two abilities are very similar to one another. So Caitlyn, I said this when Caitlyn was also kind of broken. Currently she's not too strong, but when overheal and that stuff falls out of meta, Caitlyn will become really strong. I think that she should get nerfed still. I think they should kind of bring her back to like give her attack speed, like bring that back to like normal. Maybe not even. But I think that the range on her headshot needs to be nerfed. She has so much range already. She doesn't need like an extra like 400 range or whatever. Just because somebody steps on a trap. I don't think it should be that huge. It just means like this is the real problem with her siege. She can actually stand farther back than what's appropriate. Because let's say Caitlyn is red side, Caitlyn is red side. She has the enemy bot lane under tower on their blue side tower. And this is obviously during laning phase, so bot lane. And she just sets up her traps, and she's able to like auto them. Like she's able to walk away, and then they think, oh, Caitlyn left, and she can walk away to like the brush or something. And then somebody steps on it, and then she can practically auto them from there, and it's super absurd. It's disgusting. I think that should be nerfed down by 200. I think that's fair. I don't think it's the biggest of nerfs. I think she will get hit from this, but I think it's healthier because it allows other champions to play to play the game. Camille, she's fine. She's actually very strong right now. I don't think she should be nerfed. I think other top laners should be buffed. Sort of. I sort of think that they should be buffed. But yeah. Cho'Gath. I think that... So, he's not fun to play against. He's like a... How do I explain this? Because, like, right now, he's not in the best spot because we have champions like Camille and all that. But he's just super unfun to play against. Like, his ultimate does way too much true damage. Like, pretty much he will kill you if he gets, like, a gank. And I think a big reason, I think he should struggle more in laning phase for how strong of a champion like he is, especially with like you know all of his percent damage damages, and I think take away the mana restoration from the enemies killed. I think that's fair. It's only like 3 mana or something, but you know every wave that's like 18 mana, or I don't know, something. It's between 15 and like 20 mana every wave. And I think they should just remove that. Another thing you could do is just have his mana pool either be smaller, which I don't really like. You can also make his base mana regen just decrease, which I think is fine, because then it means Dorn Ring and those things aren't as good on him. Okay, moving on. Sorry, that one. Oh, wait. Oh, I skipped over Cassiopeia. My bad. So Cassiopeia. So I think she's not in the best spot right now, but she's still played in LCS, but like regions. So not just LCS, not NALCS necessarily, but like LCK, and I think she was played in China or something. So I think the slow on her ult should be reduced from 40% to 30%. I think and actually with this, I think it might be possible. So I think her ult stuns for I think it stuns for 2 seconds. I think it stuns for 2 seconds. It stuns for 2 seconds and then it slows for 40. Okay, right. So I like her ult. I like the interaction that it has, where it's like if you know you're looking at her, you get stunned for 2 seconds, and if you're not, you get slowed. The only problem is I feel like that slow is too. It like I feel like there should be more. I think there should be more outplay potential if you dodge it. Meaning, like if you turn around while she does it. I think the slow should be reduced to 30%. Although I will say that since she's not in the best spot currently, and she's more of a hyper carry, and so I think her ult's like, so they've been nerfing her early game Twin Fang quite a bit, and I think that's very fair. It's super obnoxious in lane. Because but she goes but yeah, you can still take somebody out of lane essentially. So and they're really trying to stop that, but then she becomes like this really weird champion where she's in a really weird spot where in the middle of the game she really doesn't do any damage because she is a scaling champion, kind of like Rise. But then she just doesn't have like the same range or same kind of kiting as Rise does. So I think maybe you can increase her. Actually, wait, what's the cooldown of her ultimate? It goes from 120 to 100. So it goes from 2 minutes. That's really long. Okay, so either decrease the cooldown or increase the stun to 2.5 seconds. I kind of like the cooldown more. I think maybe the cooldown of her ultimate. Fuck. Whatever. I don't know. So I think the CD on, or sorry, Petra. That's how you spell it. Petrifying Gaze. CD lowered from 120, 100 to 80 to actually I think this is a fair buff to, I think maybe even 100, and then I don't want to say 90, 80 because I feel like how much ADR does she build? She gets 20%, she gets 30% usually, maybe 40 with Transcendence anyways. So that 100 or that I think this is fair. I think this is fair because then that 40% is about It's about 30-ish seconds off, so it's a 50-second cooldown. It's still kind of long. Let's say 85, and then down from 8, and then go to 70. I think this is a fair buff. I think it's a fair buff, fair nerf, especially where she's at right now as of 8.1. Okay, next, Corky. So he got nerfed. He actually got a decently big nerf. What did they do? They reduced, like, I think his base attack speed by, like, a lot. I was just saying reduce the base AD by 2. I think that this is pretty fair because this AD is just reducing base AD is just good, but he is a Triforce user, and Triforce is super important on him. And so this stops like the sheen damage just by about it stops at about, I think, by 6, because it's 200%. So it'd be yeah, it would stop it by about, you know, 6 damage or something like that, which is like with every like alt auto. And then you add that up to, like, because he's autoing so much in a fight, you know, that's about like 30-40 damage, maybe. Yeah, but then you also have to remember you're reducing his base AD in laning phase as well by 2, which is kind of big. So okay, I have a huge problem with Corky package, where it's like they just gave it to him for like really no reason. Like, it was kind of out of the blue, and it doesn't really make, like, you don't really play Corky for his package, right? You never played him for his package, and I think that is very weird. And I think that if you're gonna have it, at least make it like maybe 180 seconds of a cooldown instead of a 4-minute cooldown. I think 4-minute cooldown is like pretty absurd. And I think that the duration should be increased from 60 seconds to 80 seconds, just because really, like, you get out of base and like you're finally on the map like 10 seconds later, so like you have 50 seconds to like make a play, and it's like the timing's like super weird. And it doesn't like work all the time, so essentially you just like, you know, you have like 8 minutes of no Corky package. It's like, why do you have and then you don't even get that for like the first like 8 minutes or something. So it's like first like 16 minutes like you're not doing anything. It's like, so what's the point of Corky package, right? Yeah, so that's what I think should be changed to him. I know it's like pretty big buff, and Corky will definitely become meta, but I think it's fine. Like I said, playmaking. It's all about the playmaking. And so I like to nerf things that are too strong, and I like to buff things that give people playmaking potential. So Darius, I don't think so I think Darius is, I don't know, I wouldn't want to consider him healthy for the game, but in lower elos, he's like busted. He's actually just disgusting of a champion. Because of like how much he can 1v5, and how easy, or how like, and how bad lower elo players are at punishing certain kits. So, and punishing like champions who don't have like mobility and stuff. So Darius, in higher elos, like, he's a pretty terrible champion. He sort of can be played, but like not even. And when I say high elo, I even mean Diamond 5. Like, even in Diamond 5, he's actually not playable. And so I don't think he should be buffed because of lower elo, because I think I'm not like LS necessarily, where I think everything should be based around high elo, but I think there are like LCS. Not everything should be based around LCS, but because not every champion is made for LCS. So like Teemo, you don't need to like, if you buff Teemo, let's say, you know, he's not going to be in LCS, like, no matter what. Well, practically no matter what, unless obviously you give the most absurd buffs, but you know that's not happening. You also don't have to nerf him because of LCS. You have to consider low elo some of the time, because they are like the biggest. They are like the player base. That's the majority of player bases. Bronze, silver, and even gold. They make up, like, I think like 75 at least % of the player base. And so I think it is fair to buff and nerf according to those champions. So Darius is one of those busted champions in lower elo. I think that he's fine where he is, because I don't think he needs to be buffed or nerfed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Diana's kind of interesting because she got a buff in 7.24a, I think. And but it wasn't really enough. She's terrible in laning phase, but she can carry some of the time. I think that her buff, I don't think she needs a huge buff. Because I think she should also have like that kind of weak laning phase. I think she sort of can be that sort of more like auto attack based Akali. I think she's kind of a worse version of Akali in general. But I think her attack speed, she has a very low attack speed, especially for what she wants to do. Just because you build a lot of attacks. You build like Nashor's too. Actually, I guess that's really all you build. But your E now gives, I think, up to 110 attack speed, which is like a lot. And I think increasing her base attack speed by 0.05 is, I think, a decent enough buff. You'll definitely feel it. And like she'll just be auto attacking like crazy, and I think that's like really cool. I don't think anything else really needs to be buffed. I don't think that this is huge, but I think this does help, especially with her kit where she gives herself a lot of attack speed. But she's not even a good user of attack speed because of how low her beast attack speed is. It's just better to like build bursty, and I think no, like you should be able to like have your attack speed be like work with work with your champion, because your champion's all about auto attacking, well, and jumping in, auto attacking. But because I kind of hate how she's kind of like a Akali where you throw your Q out and then you just ult to the person, then auto them, and then they die. I think that's exactly like a Akali, and I think that's unhealthy for maybe not the game, but I think that's unhealthy for Diana. I think Diana should be a different champion, and I think she should be a champion that she gets on the... So you stick to a champion in different ways. I also think probably her W should just be changed, because I think her W's quite... It has nothing to do with her kit, and it doesn't change anything. Like, it doesn't make her a better champion than Akali. You really do have to compare her with Akali, because they do the same things. They jump in and they burst, and then they're both able to follow if Diana keeps. So Diana needs a bit more skill, where it's not a point and click. She has to hit this. She has to hit the skill shot, although she has better wave clear technically, and then ult to them, and then she has to keep doing that. But if she misses, like she can't jump again. But Akali, she doesn't even have to hit her Q. She can just jump to the person, then Q auto. And then obviously she's not great at sticking, but then she has like 3 jumps anyways. So I think Diana should be... I think her W should be changed. I don't necessarily know what it should be right now, but I think that the shield is... Maybe like have like an attack speed slow or something on her shield, or on her... I don't even know, maybe having it like on her W, maybe something like that, or really just anything else, because or still maybe give her a shield, but like the way how her shield works is just super. It's like if your shield runs out, get another one. It's like, what? What is this ability? Anyways, I think that she should be more auto based, and I think this would be fine. This would be fine of a buff. Okay, so I have 2 more. Dr. Mundo and Draven. So Dr. Mundo, I thought, for what he does, I think he's good at it. He's really good at being like an AP, like anti-magic damage, or sorry, anti-magic damage tank. Which kind of is what Galio is, but Galio now has to build like more AP, so now you're more of like a mage, and not even like a tank. I think Galio. I think they should have kept Galio where he was. Honestly, like at Worlds, I think that was like really Yeah, I really like that. I really liked how he was a tank in the mid lane because sure he was like pretty busted for like for like LCS, but just like buff like other mid laners then or something. Like just let Lucian play mid against Galio and boom, or let Fiora play mid even. Like I don't know, or just like nerf his alt cooldown. Like I think those are fine. Any champion who can like roam really easily and that can be played mid is busted anyways. Uh, so like Talia, TF is always really strong, but you know never busted. Galio. Are there other ones? It's really Talia that's the busted one. Anyways, so going back to Dr. Mundo, I don't think he really needs a buff, but I think his passive is extremely underwhelming, compared to Garen. And those two champions, their passives are quite similar, but I think that Dr. Mundo's should get like a little bit more love, or maybe have like have it scale. So go for so you could either have this buff or have from 0.3%, which I'm fine with. Oh, 0.3 percent from level 1 to let's say 0. Maybe let's say 7%. Let's say yeah, to 0.7 percent, and then to actually I think these buffs are fine. Oh sorry. To I think 1% is fine at level 16. At level sorry 1 at level 1. Oh, I guess that doesn't really work then. At level no, this can work. At level 1, 9, and 11. Or sorry, no, that doesn't. Maybe level 1, 6, and 11? Or maybe you can just give him okay, wait. Actually no. So 0.3 to let's say 0.5, because that's what we were gonna have originally, to 0.7 to 1%. Okay, I think this is fine. At levels 1, 6, 11, and 16. I think that's fair. I think this is a fair buff. I think Mundo's still good at what he does. I don't think he's good though, because but if he does do anything, I think this is fine. He's not a champion that really he gets really hit by grievous wounds, but he doesn't get hit by the grievous wounds on Thornmail, so you can't really build Thornmail against him, just because like, you know, if he wants to get the full healing, like all he has to do is just Q you instead of auto you, and like, you know, then he's healing anyways. So sure, he's gonna like, all he has to do is just run out of the fight, just alt, and then just, you know, run back in. So I don't think, yeah, he's still like, I think he can beat tanks, and I think that this is a really he's also like a champion that like really wants to build Warmogs, but like can't, because like it's just you really want to build Warmogs, but like it's so contradictory. Actually, I think this should be even changed then. I think that okay, so keep it at 0.3, and then actually let's have 0.8, so it goes up by 5. Actually, I don't want to make it non-interactive. I think it should be pretty weak in the early stages, so 0.5, and then at 11 it should be 1%, and then at level 16 I think it should be 2%. Yeah, I think that this is fine because, like I said, he's a champion that like, well, you don't want to build Warmogs first. You want to build it for your like your third item. So you usually go like Sunfire, Spirit Visage, and then you finish your boots, and then you get Warmogs, or maybe you get Warmogs after that. And I think that's super contradictory for what he wants to like for as a champion, because you want to be able to like run somebody down, then run out and heal back up, kind of like Garen. But then to need Warmogs to do that, then it's like, why are you playing this champion? Like just I'd rather want him to like build Titanic as this like Titanic Hydra as his third item, and not have to worry about having to build a Warmogs. And I think giving his passive this kind of a buff, kind of like Garen, is fine. And I don't think that this changes. This means like, oh, but then now Garen's like, super, like, what's the difference? Garen's just a worse version of Mundo, and kind of like the whole Akali Diana deal. I think it's fine to have similarities between champions as long as there's like core like differences, like different uses of the champion. So yes, Diana and Akali both jump in like Q, alt, auto. And then the difference is Akali can just keep jumping around and stay in her shroud, and but Diana kind of can like knock them back in, and then just like kind of just brute force it out through that fight. And so and I think she should be more auto based, like just really auto attacking somebody down rather than just bursting somebody, hide in the bush for a sec, or sorry, in her Twilight Shroud for a moment, and then jump out again when she's ready. I think that those are two fine differences. And I think the difference between Dr. Mundo and Garen should be, Garen is actually like a kill threat who like you Q, you silence them, you spin to win, and then you ult them, right? And then you hopefully kill, and then you're able to tank up like hard CC, and you're able to tank up just like everything with your W. I think that's fine. Mundo doesn't actually tank too well because he has no CC, and he has no like damage reduction reducing like abilities. Like he has no shields, and all he has is like this ultimate where he takes away his own health in hope, and if he does that too low, then he can just be executed. And also at that point, then like Morelos starts stacking on, like Morelos starts to work, because Morelos only works when the enemy champion's below 40%. So let's say he's at 50% health, he ults, then now all of a sudden he is at like 40%, or he's at 30% health. And I think that's like really bad for Mundo, especially since he's played into AP champion. So he's really not a champion that really can, like, he's a tank, but he's not good at actually tanking, and he's much better at having like very extended trades. But the important part is that the trades are still going on. So Garen, he runs in, tanks a lot, runs out, heals back. Dr. Mundo should be able to run in, but like stay at arm's length and just keep throwing his Q out, keep healing up, keep throwing his Q up, keep healing up, and just never leaving combat. And I think that's really good because it synergizes with his whole kit. It synergizes with his Q, that long range percent health damage, and it synergizes with his W, where he gets more his E, where he gets more magic resist every time he takes damage. And so obviously you just want to keep your W on you because that takes away health. And I think that's I think this is a really good buff. That doesn't make him too broken because it keeps his early game in check still. Level 6, that's where people start to get those executioners, so I think and start to get in lane or whatever. If he's like against a Pantheon or just like whatever, who gets executioner second, just so that they're able to keep harassing against Mundo. Yeah, I know. Okay, sorry. That one was a bit of rant. And then Draven. Sorry guys, but Draven, I think he's fine. I don't think he should get any buff, or else he'll just like pub stomp just everyone. Yeah, I mean if he were to get a buff, honestly, I think it should be. Oh, I don't even know how. I wanted to do something like with the maybe like. maybe have like a sort of like Syndra, like Syndra-esque, uh, like passive where every time you like fully max out, one of your abilities, so whether it's Q, W, E, or Alt, you get like an extra ability on top of that. But that's like really gimmicky, and I don't like. Oh, what I think it would be is like for his Q, and they're not huge. So like on his Q, when you fully max out that, you get like a third axe or something. So that just means that like you can just bring, like, if you run out of axes in a fight, you just have one extra one that comes like, a bit, it's just like in case you drop an axe, you have another one. I think that's fine. Blood Rush, maybe when that's fully maxed out, which you're gonna always max at second, so you should get that like I think level 13. And that should be probably like I want to say like make it a little bit of a buff, like give like but I kind of want the buff to be a bit different. Blood Rush. What should blood like oh no, that's too much like Olaf. I was thinking like giving him like when lower his health. Yeah, maybe like the lower his health, like but that's so much like Olaf. Or maybe the lower his health, like the faster. Yeah, okay, no, this is super cool. So the lower his health, so let me actually write that. He's fine, and then I'm gonna say anyways. So when Q is fully, sorry, when every ability when any ability is fully maxed, give like a bonus, have like a bonus ability attached. Give a bonus ability. Yeah, sure. Give a bonus buff or something. I don't know the wording. So for Q, it would be get a third. Q gets a third. Q get a third axe to hold. For W, it would be the lower Draven's health, the faster the axes go to their intended position. So what this means is like what's really frustrating when you play Draven, and I think that this is a really cool buff, is where when he's getting like into really close like combat with an enemy who more like a melee enemy, he's when he's kiting back, he has to like auto and then run all the way back rather than just like auto step. He kind of has to do like one auto every like a second and a half or two, and then like he maybe drops an axe because he's running too fast. And I think that the axes should fly faster to their intended location so that he can run to it and keep throwing it even faster. I think that's an awesome buff, honestly. And you're only getting this at like level 13, and Draven really struggles in those later stages of. I'm not saying he struggles, but like he doesn't have like the biggest auto attack range, and maybe that's something that you could also you can also nerf. Just give him a lower auto attack range. Yeah. So E, so that's when he throws his axes. I almost want to say give him 2 of those, but I think that's too much. Although you are maxing it, like you are gonna get this at level 18, so maybe that's fair, because you have to realistically think that like which one are you getting, like which one would you want to max? If you give like E a ridiculous buff, Are you gonna be maxing it first? Like, there's no way. There's no way you don't put a like a 5th point in Q before you put like a 2nd point in E. Like, there is actually just no way. Even if you get like this buff, like, there's no way you max E first just so that you get like a 3rd, something that's like low key busted. You're definitely maxing E last. I think it would be. I kind of want to like have like 2, like get a 2nd charge of your E. Is that too much, or is that like too non-creative? Let's think of what the alt should be. His alt. I also want 2 whirling deaths. Oh, you know what? Actually, that wouldn't be too. So have like. Because he really only has 2 axes, I guess. Maybe get like a 3rd axe in there. Because we are giving him a 3rd axe, right? So if we're giving him a 3rd axe, then we should revolve his 2 other abilities around that 3rd axe. Because realistically, you're getting your 3rd axe on your Q first. That's the first thing that you're maxing. So maybe the Whirling Death gets a 3rd axe. Yeah, it gets a 3rd axe, increasing its width and damage by 50%. I think that's pretty cool. Level 16. Yeah. And then his E. Also, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to nerf the shit out of like his auto attack range or his AD for these abilities to go through, because there is no way that this is like not busted. And then his E. So if you have so when you throw 2 axes, you throw 2, but now you have 3. So do you throw 3 axes? Oh, that would be so cool. So instead you throw 2 axes. But is that animation too long? I was thinking, so you throw 2 axes and then you throw a 3rd one behind it, right? But then it's like, is that animation like too long? Because the idea is like you knock them to the side. Oh, but then it knocks them to the side, so it wouldn't even hit. Huh. Well, maybe it could just be something else. Wait, what's the... Maybe it's like... No, that's too busted. I was thinking maybe every time you throw your Q... Or sorry, you have your 3rd axe in your hand. Then... So every time you haven't like used... Yeah, if you ever have like an extra axe in your hand, then you can like throw another one. No. Maybe like every time you catch an axe, reduce the cooldown of your E. How long is Draven E cooldown? Because maybe that's what you could do. You know what? I'm just gonna go Draven. Okay, we're gonna actually theory craft this. Okay. So spitting axe. So cooldown. Oh, that's blood rush. My bad. Stand aside goes from. So the slow does go up to 40%, which is a nice slow. I think. Okay. So if you catch an axe, how much cooldown are you getting on Draven? Not too much. You're only getting like 10% from like yeah, you're usually only getting 10%. So that's 18, so that's like almost 2 seconds off, so it's like 16, and then every time you catch an axe, that'd be... Yeah, how about that? Every time you catch an axe, reduce... So yeah, okay, so you're getting at this at like level 18, so there's like no way, like, you know, oh yeah, this is a fine, but every time you Draven catches his axe, reduce the cool down of stand aside by 1 second. I think that's fair. Yeah, man, I think this is good. I think these are nice buffs. Okay, well, that was it for this for these what I want to be buff / nerfed. Mostly buffs all around the board. Yeah, mostly buffs all around the board, but I like LS. I think that champions should be busted, but all for different reasons. So like, okay, if you imagine, so mine is Caitlyn. If all these champions got all these buffs that I've mentioned, like, who would really be OP? Think about it. Like if you give like any one of these buffs, put them in the game like by itself, yes. A lot of these, maybe not all of them, maybe not like the Diana one, are maybe like a little broken. Some of them not so much. Like the Draven one's more of like a mini rework, but like the Dr. Mundo one, I don't think he necessarily becomes busted, but definitely will be better. But you know, if let's say you buff Dr. Mundo, right? But then let's say you also buff Darius, right? So now you're seeing Dr. Mundo and Darius both more often, and so Dr. Mundo might be really good now. But it's like, well, if Darius it gets buffed and now he can just beat Dr. Mundo harder, then this Dr. Mundo buff is meaningless, right? So and then let's say let's say Aatrox, like let's say this buff. I think this is a very fair buff, by the way. Like the Aatrox one, if you were in the last video, which you should definitely check out, where his blood price and bloodthirst should work on towers. Like, you know, if he does get the kill, maybe he should like, or you know, and starts pushing down the tower, maybe he should be able to take it faster. He's a split push, he should be able to take faster. So it's like if you give a buff to like Darius now, and then Darius is just able to like stomp Aatrox a little bit harder, than, you know, is like fair to give that buff to Aatrox. It's like, well, sure. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was it. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this content, please like, please comment, please subscribe. If you think any of this stuff is just too busted and you have like a better suggestion for a buff or a nerf, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer all your questions. Anyways, thank you guys. My name is X for One. If I did not say that, have a good day and good luck in solo queue.